So what do you put that down to? I mean, what megawatt hour cost do you attribute to small modular reactors? What would you put the cost at as a best estimate?
Tom, when we release our policy, and we will, I'm happy to answer questions about what are the assumptions that we will be making. What we know today is the Labor Party has come out with what it costs. So if it were Labor that were to introduce nuclear energy, we know that they're looking at a capital cost of $387 billion. Now, that whopping big cost, on behalf of Chris Bowen, proves why you don't have Labor running these things. I mean, the last time Chris Bowen
let's just get back to the question I asked you, though, because it's not a complicated one.
Sure.
It's not a complicated one. So what would you put the megawatt hour cost of small modular reactors? Let's say by the time maybe we get one, if you win power and one's up and running by, say, 2030, what would you put the cost at? What's your best estimate?
So I'm not going to give you a precise answer because it would be preempting
Even
our
a
policy,
range?
Tom. But nevertheless, let me give you an answer. What the experts have suggested is that it could be as low as $8,000, and the Gen Cost report puts it as high as $18,000. Now, if you wanted a range, well, there's a range, but I won't be preempting our policy with no sort of disrespect to you. What we know today is how Labor would do it, and in typical Labor style, they blow out the budget. So think about what Labor's assuming here.
I mean, to be fair on what Labor's doing here, they're not saying here's our plan and here's what we're going to build. They're just, there's obviously, you can ascribe Tom, a political element to this, and that's fair enough. They're saying it'll cost a lot.
Allow me this. Labor has put forward what it thinks the numbers are, right? And so what we have yet again, this is the same minister, the last time he came out with a big number after doing modelling was a promise of a $275 reduction in power bills. This is the same minister with zero economic credibility trying now to educate Australians on the cost of nuclear.
Okay.
I think it's laughable. But the good news is, if we're going to have the economic argument, that's precisely where we should have it, because households at home right now, they're under pain, and it's this Albanese Labor government that's put them there because they can't manage the system.
Does it concern you when you're going through your policy, or I guess how do you factor it in that so many of these projects that are up so far have had massive cost blowouts? So they've had initial estimates around the construction of a small modular nuclear reactor, and the actual cost has been much, much higher. Is that something we need to factor in some way?
Tom, I think you make a really good point. What we need to do is to ensure that we have a comprehensive economic analysis on all of the above mix of technologies. And you're right, that prices can go up. I mean, it was only a month ago that we heard that the cost of Snowy 2.0 under Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen doubled from $6 billion to $12 billion. So we have to make sure that we're being very honest and we are accounting for realistic costs. And that is why we've been critical of the government when it came out with its 43% emissions reduction target, its 82% renewables target. It never got the department or the Treasury to do any economic modelling whatsoever. We need to make sure we're being led by engineering and economics, and that's precisely what the coalition is doing as we're formulating our policy.
And so once that's done, I mean, are you entering this with a genuinely open mind, and you might come up with something that has a few modular reactors around the country, but more in other areas are actually going to be more expensive, so renewables will do the job there. Is that how you're approaching this, if it's a purely economic mindset, that you'll come up with a document that will say, if we use more renewables, it would have been expensive, and this is why. This is why we're using this energy here, and so on?
Tom, very much an open mind, which is why I deliberately am using the phrase all of the above. Renewables will play an important role in the grid moving forward. So will other energy sources. And this is what an all of the above approach is about. We have to stop as a nation taking this ideological approach that Labor is, that suddenly technologies are pitted against each other. No, I mean, ideology doesn't bring electrons to the grid. It doesn't keep the lights on. It doesn't keep the prices down. But engineering does, and economics does. And so I'm excited that at least Labor now want to talk about zero emissions nuclear energy, and let's make it about the economic case and the impact on households.
All right, well, look forward to going through those numbers. When do you think you'll have that? Plenty of time before the election? It won't be a sort of during the campaign announcement, given the complexity we're talking about here?
Oh, there's certainly complexity. There's no doubt about that, Tom, which is why our priority is to get it right, and we're taking the time to get it right. It'll certainly be released in plenty of time for a proper discussion.
What does that mean, though? Well before the election campaign, not just dropped during it in the sort of maelstrom of debate?
Well, if you know when Anthony Albanese is going to call the election, let us know, and I'll give you a definitive answer in response. But what I can tell you, Tom, is the coalition's been completely upfront with the Australian public from the get-go that we are considering zero emissions nuclear energy as part of a balanced future energy mix. We will continue to be transparent, but we will call out Labor and Chris Bowen for the laughable figures that he produces. It's good for a giggle.
Okay, well, the time frame for the election, let's work towards 2025 anyway. I'm out of time, my time now, but I'm sure we'll get plenty of time to go over it. We'll do it when we have the details there. Ted O'Brien, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Tom. All the best.